Thank you so much. And I will just give a quick visual description of myself also to start. My name is Jody. I'm part of the DJ and Care Pod. I'm an East Asian non-binary person with like shoulder length black hair, wearing a bright, cozy hoodie, and there's some plants and sunlight in my background. And we're so excited to have you all joining us here today for this topic, framing conflict as play. And when we were thinking about this session, thinking about how, as we're designing the worlds that we want, we know there's never going to be a world without conflict. But while holding conflict, we can learn how to hold our differences in ways that are generative, authentic, and even playful and maybe fun. So in this practice space, we're going to be deepening on some things that we were talking about and learning about in the care circle. There's some folks who are joining us here today for the first time, and that's amazing. And maybe some folks here at the care circle too. But we'll be building tangible skills today to approach those everyday situations of conflict with a sense of choice through role play. And we'll have different ways to participate with those small group role play activities today as we're moving into integrating that theoretical understanding with an embodied relationship to conflict in our real lives. So on this slide, you'll see just a flow for today's gathering. So we are doing introductions and check-ins right now, and we'll move into a breakout room activity for folks to check in with each other. Then we'll have the main part of this session with Meenadchi facilitating us through framing conflict as play and our role play activities. We'll have a 5-minute break in there, and then we'll take a longer 10-minute break after that. And then we'll move into some reflection and conversation with our practice-based questions before we close with announcements and farewells. Just sharing about the access supports we have available today. There we have a slide deck for today, and Mira will be dropping a link to that in the chat. And this is for asynchronous participation and for you to reference throughout the gathering. It'll have all the prompts, everything that we're doing, and you'll have access to this afterwards via email as well. And we just ask that if you're using the slide deck afterwards, after today, that you credit the DJ and Care Pod and each person's name and pronouns as they're in our introduction slides. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to shout out one of the facilitators in the chat, and we'll respond via chat or audio. And just give us a couple minutes to respond and to catch that in the chat. If you want your share in the chat to be read out loud as we're going on, you can start your message with read and your message, and Mira dropped an example of that in the chat as well. We have 2 ASL interpreters for our event today, Elijah Ayers and Amanda Briggs. You can pin them anytime on your own screen, and we also have them spotlighted for you. During breakout activities, we're going to be creating a group that includes ASL interpretation. So if you would like to be in the ASL room, you can do that, or you can let us know by putting a star next to your name. Or you can stay back in the main room so we can make sure you're added to the right room. And yes, another note on breakout rooms, we'll also have a quiet room anytime that we're having breakout room activities. So you have that option to go into a quiet room for personal reflection instead. And if you want that option, you can add quiet in front of your Zoom name. And just give us a couple minutes at that time also to like shuffle everyone around and make sure everyone's getting to where they need to go. And as mentioned earlier, we'll have a 5-minute break and a 10-minute break throughout the gathering. Live transcription has also been turned on via Zoom, so you can enable this at the bottom of your own screen. And for emotional support today, we have Miro joining us again. They're here to hold space for some one-on-one connection and emotional support. So if anything comes up for you during this gathering and that kind of space might feel helpful, you can message Miro to connect one-on-one via the chat or via a separate breakout room. And then finally, last but not least, show up as you are. So feel free to take any additional breaks that you need, have your camera on or off, move around your space and be comfortable. Anything you need as we're going. Yeah, so the DJN Care Pod, which I've mentioned a couple of times, is a soft regenerative space for dreaming and designing liberatory cultures of care. Through virtual gatherings and online and offline togetherness, we experiment with how the lineages of care and healing justice might shape the way we design more just community-led worlds. And we're really grateful to all of you for joining us in this journey, whether this is your first gathering that you're here with us for, or not your first gathering and you've been with us since we've started hosting these. Yeah, we're really grateful for your presence and your offerings. And today we're holding space together as a team. So that is Denise Shante, DJ and CarePod lead, and Karina and I as CarePod collaborators. And here, yeah, so emotional support is being held today by Body Mind peer supporter Miro SK. Yeah, again, if you need any processing space through message or in a breakout room, please send a direct message to Miro. And here, Miro, I'll just invite you on to say hi, give a visual description of yourself, and share anything you want to about what you're offering today. Yeah, thanks so much.
Hello, everyone. This is Miro. I am a white-bodied, non-binary femme with a little bit of a different look this round. So this round, I have a freshly shaved head, bleached eyebrows, assorted silver and gold jewelry, and kind of a bronze and black trench coat. And I am here to offer support in the chat or by breakout room, as Jody explained. And I am here out of a recognition that as our bodies carry the marks of the oppressive systems we gather to upend, that connecting to our bodies through somatic practices, and especially within community, can at times bring up unexpected emotions, sensations, and memories. I'm here to offer compassionate one-to-one space via breakout rooms or chat to affirm, validate, and process whatever may be present for you today. During the meeting, I'll be adding support by way of questions and information via the chat, as well as noticing and uplifting messages from the community. And I'm really grateful to be here with you again.
Thank you, Miro. We are so grateful that you're here and really appreciating all your noticings and curiosities always as we go. And for tech support, today we are joined by Victoria again, very, very beloved DJN staff member, tech wizard, just holder down of all things. So thank you so much, Victoria. And finally, we have our guest practitioner for today's practice space, Meenadchi, who will be introduced more fully later and guiding us through framing conflict as play. So now I just wanted to invite folks. That was maybe a lot of information off the top, just orienting us to the space, but inviting us into a grounding moment to land into our bodies, if that feels good for you today, before we head into the rest of the session. So I wanted to share a practice called bone squeezing, which I learned from a somatic practitioner named Marika Heinrichs, who has been trained in the lineage of generative somatics and among other things, and as a community, radical queer community connection of mine from Toronto from years ago. So this practice is sort of a way of grounding, of orienting to our edges and connecting to our structure, our bones, which is something that I feel like, at least I don't do very often. So there's the invitation to do this lying down, sitting, standing up, any position that feels accessible to you right now, whatever position you're already in. So starting using your hands, again, if that feels accessible. If not, you can just direct your attention and some mindful presence, or just follow along in whatever way feels right. But I'm going to use my hands and start kind of moving from my skull down to my feet, just feeling into giving a little pressure to my bones, literally squeezing my bones. So you might start kind of giving the front and the back of your skull a little gentle pressure. You can try with different variations on pressure too. If like a really light pressure, just some gentle contact, or if a more firm pressure feels good. And then moving at your own pace, and then moving down into your neck, and then into your shoulders. And then down your arms and into your elbows, giving each one a little squeeze. And then to your forearms. And spending some time with your hands and all the little bones in there that are holding so much through the day. And again, moving at your own pace, applying the kind of pressure that feels good. And then moving back to your torso, into your ribs. And then down into your hips. And if you're sitting like me, just kind of, the parts that are accessible to you, moving down your legs and your thighs, giving your knees a little squeeze. And then down your calves. Sorry, I'm very off camera now. And then lastly, into your feet. Maybe your ankle and your toes. Yeah, and then as you're done, just taking a second to notice any sensations that are there. Maybe roll or shake or wiggle anything out that feels right. Yeah, and then I'll pass it over to Denise Shante for our breakout check-in.
Thank you so much, Jody. Hey everyone, I'm Denise Shante, use she, her pronouns, the DJ and Care Pod lead for these experiences. I am currently in Medellin, Colombia. I'm a Black femme with Black natural hair, tortoiseshell glasses, gold jewelry, and an orange shirt. For this first activity, we have the opportunity to do a group check-in into smaller breakout rooms. We have created the group for ASL, and if you would like to be a part of that room, please add a star to your Zoom name so we can make sure you're added for that breakout space. And again, if you don't wish to join a breakout room and want to be in a quiet room, please add quiet in front of your Zoom name. For this pod theme, we're continuing to lift up design justice principle number 6. And that principle is, we believe that everyone is an expert based on their own lived experience, and that we all have unique and brilliant contributions to bring to a design process. We're thinking about how this principle relates to the topic of conflict in ways that we can make those through lines and connections. Lived experience is a term that often comes up in like qualitative research methods and shows up in our design conversations a lot. It's how we move through and respond to what occurs in our personal everyday lives. It's also the juicy, insightful wisdom we gain along the way. Lived experience can show us all of the things that we've learned and unlearned throughout this creative process called life. So our check-in prompt for today is, looking at the landscape of your life, share a moment when the presence of conflict offered you a learning or an unlearning. As a note, as you go into these breakout rooms, We ask that you speak from the I, which is speaking from your own personal and lived experience, not anyone else's, not anyone inside of the circle who you're with or outside of this particular space, and keeping what's shared with you in this space. So some notes of confidentiality. Please also be mindful of the space that you take up. Try your best to give each other equitable sharing time as well. We have some breakout rooms set up and we will transition in a moment.
Welcome back, everyone. As we're getting back settled, we're going to be moving into our space with our guest practitioner. So I'm going to spend a little time introducing Meenadchi, who's our guest practitioner today for framing conflict as play. Meenadchi is a somatic healing practitioner whose work centers social change and embodied transformation. Using the modalities of nonviolent communication with a decolonial lens and family constellation therapy, Meenadchi guides individual and group practices which equip participants with tools to articulate their truth and to release ancestral trauma, which was never theirs to carry. Meenadchi holds a clinical license in occupational therapy and has historically served communities impacted by gender-based violence, complex trauma, and serious mental illness. She is the author of Decolonizing Nonviolent Communication, which was published in 2019. Thank you so much.
Hello, y'all. My name is Meenadchi. It's very good to be with you. I use she, her pronouns. My hair is similar to what it looks like in this picture. I have an asymmetrical haircut with black hair that kind of comes down to my shoulders on one side and not on the other. I have brown skin, some big glasses, and I'm wearing a green sort of tank top hoodie. So I'm going to do a couple of things. One, I'm going to drop into the chat thread the link to the slide deck. We're on slide 12 and run you through our agenda today. So our instructional tool is we're going to be doing a tool called Broken Record. I will tell you now, there's like 3 slides, and then we're going to go into breakout activities and practice, and then we'll have time afterwards to debrief. If you were previously in a quiet room and you want to be in a role play, please remove the quiet from the front of your Zoom name. And if you were in a like a breakout room, but you want to go into a quiet room, if you don't feel up to being in a role play, please add quiet to the beginning of your Zoom name. So taking us into a little bit of context. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. I'm going to keep going. Broken Record is a tool from DBT, Dialectical Behavioral Therapy, which was developed by Marsha Linehan. And it's when you keep asking, saying no, or expressing your opinion over and over and over, or you just keep replaying the same thing. So when do we use it? This is a tool that we can use when we are setting a boundary. For example, I will not take on any more work until these tasks are wrapped. And then when we're requesting clarity. So for example, I understand that you're no longer free to meet today. Is there a day and a time that you anticipate being available? What makes it hard? The 2 things that make it hard dovetail into each other. When we're using this tool, it really, really requires that we stick with our needs, that we continue to reiterate what is important to us without being sidetracked into tangential conversations or other things that may also be important, but are not the thing that's most important to us in that moment. And one of the results of that is it can feel like we're being incredibly uncaring because we're not attending to somebody else's need in the way that they want us to in that moment. How can it feel easy, right? There's ease to it in the tone of our voice and in the energy of our body. So this is where we're going to practice play. I was working with some clients earlier this week, and one of them was saying that they're not able to set a boundary with their partner because it's as if they're being dismissive. They're dismissing their partner's needs. And I said, no, there's so many fun, joyful, playful ways that we can set boundaries. But again, it's like the energy that is with us, how we're saying it, and how we're doing things. So I'm going to pause here. I'm going to actually pull these slides down so I can see everybody. Are there any questions on the content themselves? Are there any questions on like, what is this tool, Broken Record, before I take us into practice? Okay. All right. So going into what the role play setup is going to look like. We'll be in either breakout rooms of either 2 or 3. And once you get into your breakout room, you'll need to assign an A, B, and a C if needed. Person A, you've got donuts, and your job is to convince person B to eat donuts. Person B, you do not want a donut, and your job is to be a broken record. Your line is going to be to say, I do not want a donut, but I would like to know what type of donuts you have. I'm going to pause here and just say, like, we're all here invested and interested in navigating genuine conflict situations that happen in the world. It's not a very likely situation that you're going to have a pretty huge conflict scenario that's centered on donuts. But the thing about this type of role play is it isolates the somatic response in your body. It will allow you to see what is your body, how is your body responding to such a silly, goofy scenario that will create a little bit more ease. It's probably going to be easier to say to somebody, I don't want a donut, as opposed to telling somebody, I don't want to work with you, or I don't want to live with you anymore, right? Those are hard, layered conversations. But we can create a little bit of somatic ease and some inroads on that neural rewiring that needs to happen, talking about goofy things. So a little bit more on the structure. If you're in a 2-person group, you'll have 1 minute to land and assign your roles. You'll have 5 minutes to play with each other. Person A convincing the person that to have the donut, person B, I don't want it. You'll switch. We'll give you that notification above. And then you'll have 5 minutes to role play again, and then 3 minutes to debrief. If you are, ooh, golly. If you're in the 3-person group, you'll have 1 minute to land and assign roles. You'll have 3 minutes to role play that first round. Then you'll rotate. So then B and C will be playing with each other. You'll have 3 minutes there, and then you'll rotate again so that C is convincing person A to eat donuts. So I'm going to pull this down again. No, I'm not. My apologies. I got one more slide to show you. And if you don't want to do a role play, there's a journaling prompt. So if you're in the quiet room, the invitation is going to be to reflect on what do you know to be true about how you speak when you are setting a boundary or seeking clarity? And does this way of speaking help you feel free or less free? I don't know why I put energy. I think I was thinking about the energy in your body, but my words got goofy. And so there it is. So I'm going to pull that down. I'm going to do 2 things. One, we'll drop that information on where you can find all of those prompts into the chat thread. And then I'm going to invite Karina to do a demo with me. Karina, you ready? All right. So Karina is going to be person A. I am going to be person B. Let's get it going.
Right. So I got the best donuts in town. Would you like one?
I would not, but I would like to know what type of donuts you have.
Tell me a flavor that you'd like.
I don't want any donuts, but I'd like to know what flavors you have.
I guess I'm curious, is there a flavor that reminds you of home?
I don't want any donuts, but I would like to know what flavors you have. All right, we're gonna pause. Okay. Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways from folks. Okay, great. Does anybody have any questions before I toss y'all out together? Great. Then I am going to orient these breakout rooms a little bit.
One moment, Meenadchi, we have Maria, who is interested in another conversational Spanish speaker, native speaker in Spanish. In case they can be paired and grouped together.
Oh.
We have Edgar.
Great. I see some things coming in on my chat thread. I'm
Yeah.
going to come to it momentarily. Okay, awesome.
I don't mean to be disruptive. I mean to the whole, I don't know, methodology that you have planned. But of course, it's easier for me if I can role play in my native language.
Yeah.
But if you already set up the pairs and everything, I can do it also in English. It was just a curiosity that I got from the group. If there was someone like a native Spanish speaker.
I'm really glad that you asked, because it is really helpful to play in the languages that are most tapped into our bodies, and it worked out perfectly, so you're good. Awesome. Okay, need one more second to sort this. Great. All right, so we've got one group of 3. Everybody else is in pairs. So if you're in pairs, keep an eye up top. And if you're in a group of 3, one of us will actually pop into your breakout room to tell you when to switch. Okay, see y'all soon. Hey, welcome back. We're gonna save our full debrief for the end, but just a quick thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. How was this for folks? Okay, awesome. Okay, we're gonna take a bio break right now. So I'm gonna put a timer up. We'll have 5 minutes. Please stretch, move your bodies, drink water, and also please be back when the timer ends. Okay, bringing folks back. Folks can give me a thumbs up emoji to let me know that you're here, even if you've got your camera off. Awesome. Okay. I'm gonna hold maybe for just a couple more seconds. Beautiful. Okay, gonna take us into round 2. So I've dropped into the chat thread. You can find the slide deck and the instructions. So this time round, scenario is the same. Person A, you're gonna be convincing person B to eat the donuts. Person B, you're gonna be playing with both the volume and the speed with which you respond. Your line is the same. I don't want any donuts, but I would like to know what kind you have. You're playing with how loud and soft you speak, how fast and how slow. Karina and I are going to do a demo. Karina, you ready?
Yes.
Give it to me.
So I'm thinking about donuts, and
I don't want any donuts, but I'd like to know what kind you have.
so I have some hibiscus, rose, and also some classic donuts available. What are you thinking?
I think that I just won because you told me. I'm thinking I don't want any donuts, but I like knowing how many or what kind of donuts you have. I like that.
I'm thinking maybe we should eat some donuts for Donut Day. Celebration.
I don't want any donuts. We're gonna pause there. Questions on that? Does that make sense?
I think it's funny that we're talking about donuts, but I do not want is also part of the conversation.
Alliteration. Let's go. Yes. Weave it into the body. I do not want those donuts. Amazing. Okay, great. So again, person A, get person B to eat those donuts. Person B, stick with your script. We'll see you back in about 14 minutes. Hey again, welcome back. Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. How was this round for folks? Okay, we've got one more round for you. So I'm gonna drop into the chat thread the visual description as well as the journaling prompt for folks who are going into the quiet room. So if you're in the role play, same scenario, person A, get person B to eat the donuts. Person B, don't get your flirt on, your swirl on, however you respond. That's what you're gonna do. Okay. All right. Karina, you ready? Okay, let's go.
It's like a penny with a hole in it.
Ooh.
But it's a donut.
Uh-huh.
Want it?
I don't want any donuts, but I'd like to hear what kind of donuts you have. What kind of donuts do you have, Karina?
The best ones you could think of. They're moist. They're quite delightful and melting in the mouth. And also they linger a little. So you'll remember what they taste like. Want one?
Don't want one, but I would like to know what kind of taste you're imagining lingering in my mouth.
I would too. Let's talk about it. Over a donut.
I don't want a donut, but I would really like to know what kind of donuts you have. Okay, we're gonna pause that there. Whew, how are folks doing? Okay, any questions before I toss you out for this final round? Okay, gonna do one quick shift with these breakouts. All right, almost. Great, okay, we'll see you back in about 14 minutes. Hey, welcoming folks back. Thank you for being with us in these rounds of both play and reflection. And here we've got about 15 minutes for open group discussion, reflection, sharing, and also resourcing the expertise that is in the room. So folks are welcome to share their experiences or ask questions. Some reminders, if you put something in the chat thread and you'd like to have it read out loud or are open to that, please put read in front of it. And then if you'd like to share something out loud, you can either use the raise hand button or physically raise your hand if you've got your camera on, and I'll track you. Let's go Glory, and then we'll go Elle.
Actually, we were in a group together, so maybe we both can share. I had a lot of fun in these exercises playing with, so it was really interesting playing with the exaggeration of tone and either being really loud or really soft, and how like that just makes the other person like tune in a little bit more and focus harder on actually listening, and how easy, like how well that works is really surprising. And oftentimes I think when I'm when I'm in a conflict and trying to have a dialogue and I'm kind of like stressed, I tend to try to keep my voice as level as possible so that I'm not, but I guess like in having a level voice, I'm not doing the exaggerating. And so I can see where the exaggeration really helps to like just express more, or, a lot more or a lot less, to control their attention a little bit more.
Thank you. Elle, how was it for you?
It was super fun to play with Glory. It was, yeah, and interesting, and I feel like I was surprised by some like what the way some things felt in doing them, of like, oh yeah, like how we just were like both flirting with each other. And it was like, oh, but we have this common ground. I got like fully distracted with what I was trying to like get Glory to do, because I was like, but no, because we're gonna do this other thing instead, right? It's we're on the same page, right? But not. But I actually had a question. I was wondering if you could speak more to the language of, but I would like to know what kind you have, like what that in the frame of this exercise, like what that's serving. Yeah.
So there's thank you for both the share and the question. There's not a lot of linguistic intention or something. The framing of that particular script sets a boundary and asks for clarity, which kind of tie into the tool of the two ways that the tool can be used. Kate.
Hi. I was the way that I was so nervous at the beginning of this, at the idea of like actually practicing the thing. And I feel like it maybe sounds silly to say, but I was like, yeah, play in conflict. I guess that's a thing that exists because these great humans that I trust and believe in say it's possible, but it didn't really feel like, I don't know, I guess I was like, yeah, maybe in like 10 years or whatever. But I don't know, I felt like I really got a good little dip into it, and I'm very grateful for I don't know, it just made it feel like that much closer and accessible to me. And just like big shout out to my partner, who was just like so joyful and wonderful, and like made a really great sort of safe container to practice in. It felt like creative, I guess, which I didn't expect, but makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Precious shared in the chat thread, I also interpreted it as setting a boundary, but still showing mutual respect and understanding. Maria.
Yeah, in our case with Edgar, the last invitation, we didn't feel so comfortable in doing so. And what we decided to do was to change the game and to play, like we decided to choose one of the, I don't know, how do you call it, fighters, or the ones that you showed in the previous presentation. And he would play, I don't know, the competitive la la la, and I would play and that was also very, very interesting as a game. And how with some roles you feel like quite natural. I actually do so. And with others was like more, this is weird, but it's nice to play. So yeah, that was the adaptation that we did with Edgar.
Thank you both for that share and for taking ownership of the game and making it fun for you. Amelia shared, as someone who grew up as a picky eater, this exercise felt familiar as participant B, but interestingly, far harder to carry out through my body when role playing as the person refusing to hear someone else's no. It was very thought provoking. Nirina shared this challenge, which actually quite difficult for me on both ends as someone who has been sexually harassed for a long time. I feel like I might need to figure out different ways to be supported or loosen up in trying this again. It was good to practice in a low stakes way though, even though the stakes felt very high to me internally. Thank you immensely for sharing that in the space and like naming the kind of difficulty. And I think, is there any support that would be helpful now, either like one-on-one support for Miro or for the group in witnessing and holding? And there's a lot of emoji love for you in the comment. We're gonna start transitioning from here. So what I'm gonna invite folks to do to kind of ground us out and ground us into the next section is just take 3 breaths together. You're also welcome to ground in any way that feels good for you. If you want to follow along with my voice, we'll invite you to inhale and then hold at the top and release. One more time, inhale, holding at the top and release. And once more, inhale, holding at the top, and then releasing with a bit of sound, body movement, and quick release. Thank you for this time, and I'm gonna toss it over to the DJ and team.
Thank you so much, Meenadchi. We are actually going to take some time to pause and have a little extra breath after this experience. So when we return, we're going to enter a discussion that connects what we've practiced with Meenadchi to these creative and collaborative ways of being and working together. And we will see you in 10 minutes. Hey everyone, if you can hear our voice, we're going to transition into practice-based conversation led by Karina.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Just giving folks a minute to land back from break. I hope that you were able to nourish and take care while we had a little space after practicing together. So we're going to spend the next 5 minutes on slides 32 to 35. We're going to be using this space for reflection. During this time, for the next 5 minutes, we're asking that each of you spend space and time answering on the slide deck, again, slides 32 to 35, one of the questions that resonate with you. And the questions that we have right now are also on the screen. The first question is, how could this practice, again, thinking back to the practice that we just all did with Meenadchi, how could this practice begin to transform your ways of collaborating with the communities that you're accountable to? What ideas and systems can it shift? And then the second question is, what would it look like to be in an ongoing relationship with and commitment to this practice? And so again, what we're going to be doing is answering and reflecting directly live now on slides 32 to 35. And we're going to be playing some music as we begin, just to start us all off. And as we're starting this space, any questions about these questions or what we're heading into? Great. Well, we're going to start the music momentarily, and we'll just be leaving about 5 minutes space for folks to be reflective on slide 32 to 35. Thank you so much. Right, folks, takes another moment or so to finish up what you were writing on the slides, knowing that there's going to be space and time after tonight's live gathering for you to go back in there and share more, and also to read and kind of listen to what was shared, both now and between these meetings. So now we're just going to spend a few minutes having space to share all together. And so just reminding us of some of the ways that we do that here. If you would like to have the chat be the way that you share, and you'd like to have your share in the chat read, go ahead and put read in the front of your chat message. And that is a message for me to read it out loud. Also, you can share by verbally, sharing, taking yourself off mute, raising your hands. And we're going to be able to do that. If we, right now, I'm not able to see folks too well because of the pinning. So if you can raise your hand, I think that will let me see you. So again, we're just sharing some of how you responded on those slides out loud together with everybody. So there's a share in the chat. Feel free to keep sharing in the chat. And you can share directly, some of your responses to either one of these questions, or you can also just share additional just feelings and thoughts you're having as we're wrapping up our practice space.
I'll share one thing. Mine's on slide 35. I put a couple of images thinking about the looping and the repetition and the broken record that was happening. And also, I have to remind myself that in any moment of practice or healing or trying to undo or unlearn anything, that it's very likely that I'm going to return to moments that I thought I had healed or learned or got right. But find myself like returning to it again and again, and that's okay, that the spiral continues, that this is ongoing. That I love the image of the mouth like singing or echoing something and just being repeated in that way is a reminder that I can do this again and again, and I can mess up and return when I need to.
Thank you for that share. Yeah, I'm really grateful for this space, the literal space to return, and these slides being a container that we can open up again and again. Feels like a good reminder for that practice you just shared. Kate T shared in the chat, I want to keep coming back to the feeling of a shared experiment that both players are greeting, experiencing, exploring, goofing together, loosening grip on the scarcity mindset of me versus them, or who will have to hold the loss. And to just give another minute or two as open space for sharing, and just reminding folks that you can always come back to this space. You can add more in later. And, thinking to question 2 of what would it look like to be in an ongoing relationship and commitment to this practice. It's also kind of an open door for you to return back to this space of reflecting on the practice and reminding yourself what this space, what this play, what being in this practice and this process allowed for you tonight. Thank you all so much. Just knowing that there's some shares in the chat that you can read through if you'd like. Folks are still taking space and time sharing now. And some folks didn't join live tonight. And so there will be folks who are listening to the recording later, and from that space might be adding into these slides. So just a reminder that this is a container that you can open back up again. And thank you so much for the presence that you've been giving this practice and just each other tonight. It's been just I've been really glad to be in this space tonight. On to you, Jody.
Yeah, just echoing all that Karina said. And as Kate said, for everyone exploring, goofing, experimenting, trying some things together tonight. And yeah, I really hope that after this, y'all also have space to nourish yourselves, your bodies, as you're moving through some of the stuff that's come up that was like expected or unexpected, delightful or difficult, all the above. But yeah, before we do that, before we close out, we have just a few announcements. So this has been part 1 of a 4-part series of care circles and practice spaces. So next up, we have in November, a care circle and practice space focused on creating care ecosystems and care teams. So stay tuned for that, and we'll be announcing more information about the guest practitioner, how to register, all that good stuff in October. So yeah, so stay tuned, that's coming up. Reminder also for the care honorarium. So we have 10 $500 honoraria for local nodes or working groups to use towards planting seeds of care, which could look like many things, including, for example, hiring a practitioner, somatic practitioner, facilitator to lead a session for your local node or working group, organizing a community event, a dinner, a gathering, hiring an herbalist to teach a class, or another practitioner to do some skill building for your group. Lots and lots of possibilities. We will drop the link to the form in the chat, and we have a deadline of November 1st right now, and there will be another round next year also. And for more information about membership and local nodes and working groups and what all that is and different ways to get involved, there's also a link being dropped in the chat right now to the DGN website. And then finally, we have a follow-up email that's going to go out in the next couple of days after this, and that will share all of the links and resources from today, including the slides, and also a new takeaway tool from Meenadchi focused on the broken record practice that we did today. So keep an eye out for that. That will come to all of your inboxes and all the folks who have registered and who are participating asynchronously too. And then one more way that you can always stay connected with the DJN Care Pod and what we're up to is by connecting with our arena. So that's a place where we keep a few different channels, including one on our collaborative lineages and the things that have been shaping and informing our work, what we've been doing, and also all of the tools and resources from all of the gatherings up until now. So that's all archived there. And yeah, again, is another container, another space that you always have access to and are always super welcome to open up and to spend some time with. And so with that, that's the end of our gathering for tonight. I'd love to invite folks to check out, if you want to share in the chat a word, a phrase, an emoji for how you're feeling as you leave this gathering. Would love that. And I also invite folks from the facilitation team tonight to come off mute and share any gratitudes, any farewells that you want to as we're heading out.
I am grateful for the vulnerability and the willingness of everybody in the space.
I feel hopeful and a little surprised, just very grateful.
I feel re-energized and but also ready to take a nap or go to sleep.
So real. Thank you all for your checkouts in the chat. Keep it coming as we're heading out. I'm also really appreciating the spaciousness today and the sharing that Mira named in the chat earlier. Like there was so much going on in those silences, so much being held and cared for. Yeah, really grateful for that.
Grateful that we can explore such like a typically charged subject with each other with such care, including, tending to any feelings and, like somatic experiencing and stuff that's happening in the moment. Really grateful for us to be exploring that kind of care together in real time with each other. Thank you so much to everyone for sharing.
Yeah, thank you. Victoria's gonna play some music now and feel free to leave on your own time. Thank you again so much for joining us.